Welcome back. Another big story that we're watching.
What you're going to see, hopefully tomorrow, is a lot of flight logs, a lot of names, a lot of information. But it's pretty sick what that man did.
Okay, well, we'll
along
look for
with his
that.
co-defendant.
Absolutely, and he had help. That's for
He
sure.
sure did.
Right now, we are waiting the Epstein files. We are told once they are ready, they will be released on the Department of Justice's website. This is the first phase of the documents that we could see at any moment. These were documents approved by Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel. Now, two sources tell Fox News these documents have largely been seen in public domain prior to today and may not contain big surprises. Now, an interesting update in the last 45 minutes. AG Bondi sent a letter to FBI Director Patel about thousands of pages of documents related to Epstein that were reportedly withheld at the FBI field office in New York. AG Bondi writing, quote, "I repeatedly questioned whether this was the full set of documents, responsiveness to my request, and was repeatedly assured by the FBI that I had received the full set of documents." She goes on to write, "Despite my repeated requests, the FBI never disclosed the existence to these files." So that's the latest at this hour. But let's take a step back and remember what this is all about. Accountability and transparency. This whole thing is another example of President Trump's promises made, promises kept.
Some people think that one way to build trust is to declassify things that everyone's talking about. I know you talked earlier about, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. So if you were president, would you declassify, you can answer yes or no to these. Would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah.
Would you,
I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right, a little history. I want to take you back to the very beginning. Let's start with this. Who was Jeffrey Epstein? Well, Jeffrey Epstein started out as a math teacher, not very successful, not very renowned, simply a math teacher. He somehow mysteriously parlayed that into working at an investment bank, Bear Stearns. From there, he founded his firm, J. Epstein and Company. Raised money, managed money for high net worth individuals, ended up with $577 million in his own net worth. Now here's what we know about the allegations and charges against Epstein. In March 2005, a 14-year-old girl alleged to have been taken to the Epstein mansion in Palm Beach, Florida. Police say Epstein should have been charged with unlawful sex with minors and sexual abuse. In July of 2006, he was arrested, but he was released on just a $3,000 bond. Ultimately, in 2008, he pleads guilty on one count of soliciting prostitution and one count of soliciting prostitution from someone under the age of 18. He's given 18 months. Then in November 2018, the Miami Herald starts to get interested. By 2019, Epstein is then arrested on sex trafficking charges for incidents dating back to 2002 and going through 2005. Then, of course, the part of the story that you're all familiar with. Jeffrey Epstein, arrested and in custody in New York City, is found unresponsive in his cell 35 days after arrest. His death ruled a suicide. He was facing up to 45 years in prison if convicted. This is just as important of a question. Who's Ghislaine Maxwell? His partner in crime, his girlfriend. Jeffrey Epstein met her in 1991, reportedly through a mutual friend. Epstein's ex-girlfriend, that's who she is as well. More importantly, she's his associate. She was arrested in 2020 on charges relating to Epstein's sex trafficking operation. She's been found guilty on 5 out of 6 charges, and she's been sentenced to 20 years in prison. That's the Cliff Notes version. That's the basics of Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. I want to bring in now an attorney who represented many of the survivors of Epstein's sex trafficking ring. Sigrid McCawley joins us now. Sigrid, thanks for being with us. What are you hoping to see? What are you hoping to see as we are expecting at least some portion of information released from the Epstein files?
Well, we're of course hoping to see more of the information about the folks who were involved in this. From the very beginning, we have said that Epstein did not act alone. You saw that with the accountability that we got when Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested and put in prison for over 20 years. But again, there were many people within this circle who were helping facilitate these crimes. So we're very hopeful with this disclosure that we'll learn more about the individuals that were helping perpetrate these crimes.
Well, I think there's an obvious follow-up here. When you say you're interested in the individuals that helped perpetrate these crimes, are you talking about the alleged Johns that would have taken place, who would have been, in essence, some type of customer of Jeffrey Epstein, a patron of what he was peddling to these rich people? Or are you talking about people or others, organizations, behind the scenes helping him to organize this entire operation?
Well, of course, there's a little bit of both. I mean, as you saw just this past year, we were able to hold two major financial institutions responsible for their efforts in the trafficking that Jeffrey Epstein was participating in. So you certainly have financial institutions, you have other organizations that as information flows out, it comes to light who was helping him, who was involved. We also have individuals, of course, that were facilitating these crimes, providing him with the necessary information, money, things of that nature. There's a lawsuit pending right now against his right-hand accountant and right-hand lawyer to hold them accountable for participating in this activity. So there were many, many actors who helped him facilitate these crimes.
There's going to be a lot of attention, Sigrid, on the names who were on Jeffrey Epstein's flight log list, who flew on his plane to visit his island. That will be difficult because presumably not everybody that was ever on a flight with Jeffrey Epstein is somebody who would be guilty of the greater crimes involved in having sex with underage minors. How will that be parsed out? How will we know who is somebody who knew Jeffrey Epstein and someone who patronized with Jeffrey Epstein?
It's a great question. I mean, there are many clues in those flight logs. We've had the ability to see a few of them, and hopefully now with the government's disclosure, we're going to see some more. But what's interesting to me in those flight logs are the entries where you see individuals' initials, and then you see a comment of 5 females or 3 females. Typically, those pilots would not write down those individuals who they were concerned about revealing. Now, that could be that they were minor children. It could be that they were individuals that the pilots maybe didn't know and were just transporting for that one trip. So there's a wealth of information. If you study those flight logs very carefully, there's a wealth of information about what was happening in Epstein's sphere at any given time. There's also in those flight logs the absence of information that's helpful.
You know, one last question for you, Sigrid. When you look at all of this, what was this all about? Was this about some rich guy who was helping cater to the kinks and crimes of rich people who thought they could live beyond the law? Or was this something more? Was this extortion? Was this blackmail?
It was a very sinister scheme. I mean, this is the longest running sex trafficking operation that certainly I've seen in our history. So this went on for decades and decades, hurting hundreds and hundreds of young females. It involved blackmail. It involved all types of different kinds of conduct to help facilitate these crimes. So it really is historic in many ways. And the fact that there is additional information flowing out from our government is highly important. I mean, critical to this is, you know, the information that was uncovered, for example, when his arrest happened, the information that was utilized in the criminal trial. All of that information the American public should be entitled to see and consider.
Last question. Are you optimistic? Do you think you will get the answers? We will get the answers to these questions? We will get this information?
I don't know if we'll ever have all the answers. I mean, this was, again, such a unique and intricate system that went on for so many years, and he harmed so many individuals. I'm not sure the survivors will ever get the satisfaction that they want, but maybe this is a step toward a sliver of justice for them.
All right, Sigrid McCawley, thank you so much for being with us today. Just scratching the surface of what is a very complicated story, one that's going to require a lot of investigation and digging the truth behind Jeffrey Epstein.